What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Bourbon and Bets. I am your host, Zach Stonerock, and joining me again on the show this week, I have Mr. Tim Todd. Tim, welcome back to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me again.
Of course, man. Love to have you on and always enjoy the conversation. So last time you and I chatted about about our predictions for the NFC. So it only makes sense that we shift our focus over to the AFC as we get closer to the first game of the season. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that really is the only thing that makes sense, right?
Yeah, we gotta do things that make sense. If it's logical, that's what we do. We do the next logical thing. Sometimes it doesn't always work that way with some of the bets I place, but we're gonna try to keep logic in this show. So,
I don't know. I don't know if there's a lot of logic in betting. I mean, there is, I guess, but sometimes things just go crazy. So
yeah, I mean, sometimes you get a couple wins and start betting crazy. It's just like at like a normal casino. You start winning a few hands of blackjack at like a $10 table, and before you know it, you've upped your bet to like 25 and then 50, and then before you know it, you're broke. So it's just the thrills of the activity. But let's go ahead. So we are officially under a month now until the first game. September 7th, your guys take on the Chiefs to kick off the season. So really looking forward to that. We had the Hall of Fame game, which lived up to the Hall of Fame game hype. I mean, it's just probably the worst football we're going to see all year. There was a few highlights of it. DTR for Cleveland showed up and put on a little bit of a performance. Now, I don't know how much weight anyone wants to put into that, just considering the fact that it was the Hall of Fame game and he wasn't necessarily playing against the top talent from the Jets. But nonetheless, I mean, he's still playing professional football and he put up a pretty good stat line. So it seems like there's a little bit of excitement coming from Cleveland regarding that. But in typical Hall of Fame game fashion, when you play football at a high school football stadium, you're going to have some technical difficulties. Third quarter, one of the light banks went out, and Tim, I'm not sure how much you watched the game, but I didn't watch a lot of it. But I just so happened like turn the game on when I saw that it was delayed, and I was like, oh, I wonder like what's going on. What's going on? I wonder if they're going to, pick things back up, or if they're just going to call it, considering it's the Hall of Fame game. But I tuned in when they were doing the interview with Zach Thomas, and I forget who was interviewing him, but she essentially was like, "Hey, this is a great day for you. This is, I'm sure, like this is the day you've been waiting for, like your entire life. Um, tell us about that time when you got hit by a truck as a child." It was just like, what?
greatest day to that.
What a transition. It was I couldn't believe it, but I guess that's good reporting these days.
I bet they fill the time.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to Zach Thomas for handling that question the best you can handle a question like that. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive in to the AFC and talk a little bit about our picks for conference leaders in different stat categories, and we'll wrap things up just like we did last time with who we feel is going to be the AFC champs this year and representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. So I don't remember what we started with last time, but I think this time we should go ahead and kick things off with passing leaders. What do you think?
Yeah, that works.
All right. Well, since you're the guest on the show, I'm gonna go ahead and let you go first and share with me who you think is going to lead the AFC in passing yards.
Okay, I did a little research just to see like what stats looked like last year, and honestly, some of it kind of surprised me because when you're living in the moment of football, some things you just don't realize. Like you don't realize. I don't look up stats like during the season. The only stat I care about is how many wins do the Lions have, how many losses do the Lions have. That's all I care about. So, I'm looking through some of this, and I was a little surprised at the numbers. You had Mahomes at the top for the AFC and of the whole league, which really, I want to say I was like surprised, but I guess I shouldn't be. But like the Chiefs went through some struggles last year, so like I don't know. I figured somebody would have been closer to him than there was. Then you had Justin Herbert and Burrow, and then it seemed kind of normal. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Joe Burrow this year. I think Joe Burrow will lead the AFC in passing. They struggled to start the season last year, and it seemed like their offense was just not gonna. It almost looked like, oh, they have a Super Bowl hangover, and it's bad. But then they got it. They got it together, and they were playing great football at the end of the year. And I think they're going to roll into this year playing great football. And Joe Burrow just has a plethora of weapons. So I see, and it's just hard. The AFC, NFC, I think there's some more clear cut guys. The AFC, there's a lot of talent over there in the AFC for all these categories. And they're, as we talked about last week, they're the leaders in the NFL in most of these categories.
Yeah.
So, I don't. It's hard to make this pick, but I'm going to go with Joe Burrow.
Okay. I don't hate the pick. I mean, it's a good pick. He has arguably one of the best receiving trios in the NFL. We've talked about it before between Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins. His offensive line's been improved, so you have to give him credit for that. And as Joe Burrow just continues to develop and become more comfortable and matures and continues to grow as a quarterback, I think that's a very fair pick. I could definitely see that happening. It's not who I picked. It was kind of a coin flip between Joe Burrow and the guy I went with, but
well, I'm curious because I had a coin flip too, kind of.
Okay. Well, okay. So I really like the Joe Burrow pick. I think that, so I'm actually going to go slightly different route here. I'm going to go with another guy who is, well, actually, so Joe Burrow's odds are plus 900. So he actually comes in fourth when we're talking about best odds to lead the AFC in passing yards. So I think it's a very solid pick, but I'm actually going to go with a guy who's rated a little bit higher than him, and I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. Is that the other guy?
That was my coin flip. Yeah, that was my coin flip.
So I think that one of the advantages that Justin Herbert has, so he also has very, very solid receivers. He's got Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, that's always a coin flip of how he's going to show up from week to week. But I think Mike Williams
he shows up.
Yeah, when he shows up, he shows up. But as a Keenan Allen fantasy football manager over the past couple of years, there's a lot of games where he just doesn't show up. So also looking at Mike Williams, I think Mike Williams is still underrated throughout the league, but that's another guy that when he shows up big, and he could have, 150 yards and 2 touchdowns on like 3 catches. Just because he's the guy that's going to stretch the field. I truly believe the difference maker is going to be Austin Eckler out of the backfield, because that's just additional receiving yards that are going to pad Justin Herbert's stats. Whereas Joe Mixon's not necessarily as big of a pass catcher coming out of the backfield. And I also,
what's that? No, you go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I was also going to mention that I think Gerald Everett for the Chargers is going to be a better pass catching tight end than what Irv Smith is going to be for the Bengals. So that's what really guided my decision. I was really close to picking Joe Burrow, but I do give Justin Herbert just a slight edge here.
Yeah, it's funny that I had that same coin flip, and just the other side of the coin for me. I will say, losing Pirine is going to hurt the Bengals in that passing game, because he's a guy that caught a lot of balls out of the backfield. But I feel like the Bengals can reload. I see a big year out of the receivers, so that's just kind of why I went with that pick. But I love the Justin Herbert pick as well. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year. He's developed really well. They've added weapons. They added weapons in the draft for him as well. So I can definitely see Herbert.
Yeah.
As well.
So Herbert comes in at plus 650. And as you mentioned, the favorite again is Patrick Mahomes at plus 300. What caused you to stay away from picking Mahomes?
Man, I think I was going to mention this later in the year, but I I see the Chiefs having a down year. Not down year to where like they'll lose their division, but a down year in terms of what the Chiefs have been doing the past couple years. Like
So they're not going to win the Super Bowl, is what you're saying.
I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't think they'll even be in the Super Bowl.
I
So
think that's fair. Just so you know, I'm in agreement with you.
yeah, I just all those good things they have to come to an end eventually, right? And like they've been rotating pieces and doing well at doing it, but it's going to catch up to them eventually. You know, all those guys are getting older. And don't get me wrong, Patrick Mahomes is a phenomenal player. Like he's a generational talent. We're not going to see another guy like him for years and years and years, if ever. But he has his struggles too, and I just feel like, again, not to say that they won't win their division, but I feel like they're going to struggle more this year than they have in the past couple years.
Okay. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think so. The last season is going to contradict what I'm getting ready to say, but I think the fact that your leading receivers are your tight end, I think that also causes a little bit of concern. Travis Kelce's not your average tight end, and I think that anyone would agree with that statement. But the Chiefs lost Juju. Kadarius Toney, I don't know if he's cleared yet for
Yeah,
football.
say he's going to be ready for week one. I mean, you know, they say that, so the Lions have to game plan for it and yada yada yada.
Right. But then like behind Tony, we have Sky Moore. And who's the other rookie that just came in?
Oh,
Rice is his last name Rice?
yeah, Rice is there. They have another guy too. I mean, they have a lot of like young guys that they're
Young
like
guys that could break
expecting.
out, but
Yeah, Ross maybe is his name. Ross. I think there's another
Justin
guy.
Ross. I think Justin Ross.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Justin why?
and then they do. Jerick McKinnon's a great receiving running back as well. So they do. I mean, they have talent all over the field. Again, I don't know. You keep going with your thoughts. We heard my thoughts.
Yeah, I just think that's going to cause some problems. Like you mentioned, Patrick Mahomes is truly a generational talent who we may not see another talent like him for quite some time. I just think that everyone said this about Brady too, so I'm hesitant to say this, but the magic has to run out eventually, and I feel like as Travis Kelce ages, he's going to become less effective. He's still a monster, still
Yeah,
dominates the field at that position. He's still the best tight end in the NFL. So
yeah, yeah. But that's just the nature of that position.
it's the nature of it. I mean, over time, people do age. Like Father Time's undefeated. I just I struggle to see Patrick Mahomes being able to keep that magic alive. Not to say they're not going to have a good season. Not to say they're not going to have a winning season. I just think that when we look at it from a stat standpoint, I think he is going to struggle this year, and he'll probably finish top 10 in the NFL in passing yards, but I don't think he's going to finish top 5.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I hate to say that I'd love to see that, but we need some new new teams
Yeah.
out here. That's how I feel about it. So
All right. Well, so you're taking Burrow at plus 900, and I got Justin Herbert at plus 650.
yeah.
Well, let's go to the guys who are going to be catching those passes. Let's go to the receivers. Who do you believe is going to lead the league in receiving yards this year?
So I almost like doubled down on this and went with Jamar Chase almost.
Okay.
He,
So Jamar Chase is the favorite at plus 600.
yeah. Oh, he's the favorite.
I think in the AFC.
Okay, okay. I mean, still like that's. I mean, I know he got hurt last year, so that's why he wasn't up there among those guys. Um, I still think it's gonna be Tyreek Hill. And that he's just their receiving core as well is between him and Waddle. I mean, they're one of the best duos in the league. A lot of speed, and he finds a way to just turn just about anything into a huge play.
Yeah.
So he's just another one of those guys that we probably won't see a guy like him with that speed for a while. But I wouldn't be shocked if Tyreek Hill leads the league in receiving yards this year. So I'm going to go with him. I know he led the AFC last year by a decent amount, if I'm remembering correctly. And I know he's talking all this stuff about 2,000 receiving yards. I don't know that it'll be quite that much, but I bet it'll be up there.
Yeah, I'm gonna check something here real quick.
I mean, he had 1,700 last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me see something. Sorry, trying to get the right search here.
I was gonna say, what are you looking at? I am gonna get this light on.
Let's see. Trying to figure out who led the NFL in yards after catch.
Oh, that would shock
That's
me.
got to be Tyreek, right?
I mean, it wouldn't shock me.
Well, I can't, for whatever reason, I can't get it to pull up. But
I mean, I know he is a long ball guy, but also that guy can turn a screen into an 80-yard touchdown.
right, just by purely outrunning people.
Yeah.
All right, I can't find it, but we'll try to find that stat later. But I think that's where a lot of his yards come from because I don't know. I feel like Tua is very inconsistent as well. So I think a lot of Tyreek's performance is going to be obviously it's going to be dependent on Tua and how he plays. I don't know. I feel like there's still a lot of question marks around Tua.
Yeah, I mean, I think to a degree, but if you look, Tua got hurt last year, and Tyreek, still did well. It really helps when you have Jalen Waddle on the other side, and it's like almost two number ones that you have to worry about. That just sucks. It's a nightmare for a defense.
Well, all I'm going to say is that Teddy Bridgewater's not down in Miami anymore.
Hey, he's in Detroit, baby.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens if Tua goes down this year. Who was the guy that came in? He played a couple games last year. I can't remember what his name is.
Why Skyler something, right?
Yep, you're right.
I can't think of his name. He played in the playoff game, didn't he?
Yep.
He was quarterback in the playoff game.
1 second. It is
Thompson?
Skylar Thompson. There you go.
It is okay. I don't know. I just like his first name came into my head and his last name later. I don't know why.
Sometimes the brain just remembers things like that, Tim. You're probably one of the very few people in the United States of America who remember his name.
Dude, it's what's weird? There's so many things I can't remember, but then you're like, hey, what was the score to that Detroit Lions game in 1999 when Charlie Batch was the quarterback? And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I can just rattle that off, but I can't remember other things. It's like crazy. It's stupid how sports knowledge just sticks in my head.
I don't have that type of memory, especially when it comes to sports. Like, I can't even tell you, like, I'm a Panthers fan. I can't tell you who the majority of our games were against last year. Off the top of my head, that information doesn't stick, but if you want me to quote a line from a low budget comedy movie from 2007, I could probably quote the movie from start to finish.
So basically, if it's funny, then you're going to remember it.
Absolutely. So I can use it later on in life as I'm just having day-to-day conversations. I can just drop a little nugget from the movie, and then the person's like, that's the oddest thing anyone's ever said, and they have no idea that I pulled it out of Paul Blart Mall Cop or something like that.
Yep.
Okay, so you're going with Tyreek Hill. Solid pick. He's plus 900, comes in second place. You and I actually flip-flopped on this. So I took the second rated passer, and you took the fourth rated passer. This time you're taking the second rated receiver, and second best odds for receiver.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm going to take the fourth best odds out of the AFC, and that's going to be Garrett Wilson. So I'm going to go ahead and take Garrett Wilson at plus 1,800. I think having Aaron Rodgers there and Aaron Rodgers kind of force feeding him the ball, I think he's going to have a huge year, and I think this is going to be a big breakout year, and I could see this being a year very similar to like when Michael Thomas had that record-setting season.
That's an interesting pick. When I was thinking about it, Garrett Wilson never came to my mind, but this is hilarious because I remember when Garrett Wilson was at Ohio State, and I was hyping this man up, and you were like, "Who's Garrett Wilson?" I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
I think that was his like sophomore year, wasn't
Oh,
it? Like,
yeah, it might have been his freshman year. I mean, he was young.
yeah. I don't know how you knew about Garrett Wilson.
You know, it's
I've
crazy. I don't even watch college football that much, but I knew who he was. I don't know.
been following him since his Pop Warner days.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take Garrett Wilson at plus 1800. I do believe that the Jets are going to be revitalized this year. I don't have them winning the AFC championship, but I do think that they're going to be a playoff contender this year.
Do you think they're going to win the AFC East?
I don't know, man. It's tough to make a pick for the AFC East
That's a
because
hard question, right?
I I have a hard time thinking that the Bills are not going to come out on top just because they still have a lot of talent. They're aging. They are starting to get up there a little bit.
Well,
And
their window's closing.
yeah, their window's closing quick. And I'm sure that there's a lot of Bills fans out there that are just dying to see them lose another Super Bowl before Josh Allen retires. But just take it back to the early 90s.
Yeah, that's it's horrible.
Yeah,
I'd
so
love to make one. So I can't say I can't talk.
Panthers have made two of them.
And
And
they've been around since like '95. So
95, yeah.
good,
So
good
we're
for you.
0-2 also. So I can't really talk about
Okay.
losing Super Bowls, but we did not lose 4 in a row. So, but I don't know if the Jets are going to win, but I do think it's going to be a battle between the Jets and the Bills for first place. And I feel like if Breece Hall comes back and is close to what he was last year before he got hurt, I think they're going to have a really strong team. I could also see if they do sign Dalvin Cook, what that could mean for them as well. Like that's just another weapon. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens with the Jets, as I'm sure the rest of the world is as well. But Garrett Wilson, I think he's going to be top receiver coming out of the AFC. Might even be top receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick. I think to go back to Dalvin Cook. I wonder if the Jets are waiting on Dalvin Cook to kind of see where Breece Hall is going to be. Because if Breece Hall is going to miss 4 or 5 games, Dalvin Cook's not a bad guy to plug in there, and then you got 2 guys, and you really don't have to rush Breece Hall back because that's what you don't want to do. You don't want him coming back with, from a torn ACL. It's gonna be a struggle for him, regardless, because of his position. But I don't know. I feel like the Jets are the team to sign Dalvin. I don't know that he's going to go anywhere else. I just don't see him fitting anywhere else. So
yeah.
But
let me see here. I'm gonna look something up here real quick. I know I'm doing all kinds of Google searches on this episode, but
that's what it's for, right?
that's right. That's why they.
What are you looking to see when his timetable for return is?
No, I want to see when their bye week is.
Oh,
Because I mean, instead of trying to rush him back, let's see here. What is this? Why is this not giving me the whole schedule? I hate some of these websites, man.
I can get it for you though.
This one happens to be NFL.com. I just hate it.
I find that the NFL app is pretty easy to use when you're looking up schedules. So let me see. Their bye week is week 7.
Yeah, so let's say Breece Hall's timetable to return is he's going to miss the first 4 weeks. Do you really rush him back, or do you pick up a guy like Dalvin Cook and say, like, hey, we keep Breece Hall and just kind of ease them back into action? Or even hold him out until after the bye week?
That's what you probably want to do. Because when did he get hurt last year? Around week 7, right? It was like week 7 or week 8.
I mean, it wasn't too deep into the season. So, and then if you have Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall, a 100% healthy, well-rested Breece Hall going into the second half of the season, that might be the advantage that puts them over the top over the Bills.
Yeah. Well, they got to sign Dalvin first, so.
True. That is, I guess we're talking about all these hypotheticals, and Dalvin's still out there with no contract. So
that is correct.
I do think that it's likely he's going to sign with the Jets. I think from what I've been hearing, it
just doesn't make sense that he goes anywhere else.
Yeah.
Unless he stays with Minnesota for cheap, but I don't see him doing that.
Or, I mean, has he 100% ruled out Miami?
I don't think so, but he said he didn't like their contract. And to be honest, like with Miami's running back situation, I mean, they drafted a running back. They still have Mostert, Jeff Wilson. Like I don't,
Yeah,
yeah, I
but
don't
Wilson and Mostert, I mean, they've been
get it, but
bouncing
like,
around together since their time in San Francisco.
yeah, I just don't know that. And with them trading for Ramsey, do they have the money that he wants? I just don't know that they got it. So
Uh,
that's part of the problem.
Dalvin worth the money that he wants? It seems like no one wants to pay running backs right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get it. It's a tricky position. Those guys don't last very long. Not normally, at least.
Right.
So
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to just recap so far. Um, I've got Herbert for passing leader. You've got Burrow. Um, you've got Tyreek Hill as receiving leader, and I have Garrett Wilson. So let's go to the other skill position that everyone actually we just referenced. Let's go to running backs and see who's going to lead the AFC in rushing yards. So once again, I'm going to hand it over to you to go first.
I'm gonna go with there's a guy that I picked. I remember we did something similar to this, and I think we actually did like who's gonna lead the NFL in rushing a couple years ago, and I picked this guy.
I don't remember
And
what this is.
okay, well, I picked this guy, and he's in an interesting situation now, especially with kind of what happened in the offseason. I'm going to go with Nick Chubb to lead the AFC in rushing.
He's actually the
Um,
favorite, so it's not
is
like
he?
it's not a
Okay, I didn't,
stretch.
I didn't know he was the favorite. But I look at it with their situation with Kareem Hunt leaving, it leaves it's him. Like he is the guy in the back that I know. They have Jerome Ford, and he's been showing promise. He just got hurt, so who knows how long he's out. But I mean, when you look at what you got, if Nick Chubb stays healthy, the Browns are stupid to not give him the ball as many times as they can within their game plan. They're going to have to set up the run. Deshaun Watson didn't look great last year.
Right.
So, their game plan's going to, in my opinion, you got to use Chubb. You got to use him strategically and smart, but he's an animal. He's a beast. So, like, give him the ball and let him move you down the field, set up play actions. He's going to break a few. He does every year. But I just think with his particular situation where he is the clear-cut guy, there is no running back by committee there. He is the guy. If he does not go down, I think it leaves it wide open for him. And they do have a decent passing attack too. So, they're adding Elijah Moore. You still got Amari Cooper. These guys are getting older. And Njoku finally looks like he might be the tight end that people thought he was going to be. Deshaun Watson can potentially use his legs. I think a whole training camp offseason for him. He's going into the season. I think Watson's going to look better. Maybe not great like he used to, but he's going to look better than last year. So just all those factors, and just that main thing being Nick Chubb is the guy there. So
I'm actually 100% in agreement with everything you just said. So I'm going Nick Chubb as well. I tend to stay away from the favorites just because I don't know. I feel like when somebody's a clear cut favorite, like obviously they're up there for a reason, but I almost feel like it's the sports books like baiting us to make those plays. But everything you said is accurate to me. Nick Chubb's the guy. He's a go-to guy. Kareem Hunt's not there anymore. He does have the ability to break long runs when needed. He's gonna grind. He's gonna grind away at you. I mean, he's a big back who can run between the tackles. But one thing I do disagree with that you said. I know I said I agree with 100%. I think Deshaun Watson's gonna have a really big year this year. He came in last year, didn't look good, but he wasn't even allowed at the facility until his suspension was up. So he got no time with that offense and was kind of thrown in there to figure it out. I think having a full offseason with Amari Cooper, and Njoku, and as you mentioned, Elijah Moore's there, I think that passing attack is going to be a lot more potent than what it's been the past few years. I mean, if we look back, they've had like who was it last year? Brissett? Did he start the season as quarterback? Jacoby Brissett?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yes, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
And then like before that, you had Baker Mayfield. So like they've never really had a strong quarterback. And if Deshaun Watson having a full offseason to get back into the form that he was in when he was in Houston, I think we should be expecting a lot more production out of Watson. So I think that if they're able to spread the field, that's only going to help Nick Chubb, and he's going to have more opportunities to break those big runs. In addition to, he's running what's projected to be the second best offense, or running behind what's projected to be the second best offensive line in football. So, I mean, there should be, and it's too early to tell. There's still a lot of training camp. Again, we don't hope for them, but there could always be injuries. But I think all of the pieces are falling in place for Nick Chubb to have another fantastic year and lead the NFL in rushing yards.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with that. I could see leading the NFL in rushing yards. It's again the only thing I can see getting in that way is just Browns. Like they seem like they just seem like they've been cursed, for so long. So like, I just hope, I wish well on the Browns because, I'm a fan of a team that also went 0-16. Like you don't wish that on anybody. You just want to see they have a very devoted fan base. You want to see them do well. It's just it sucks in the hole they've been in. But they're in a tough division with some stingy defenses.
Yeah,
So
very good defenses.
that might play a factor as well. But especially up in that part of the country, it starts getting cold in November.
Yeah.
So that's the style of ball you're going to play. You're going to see more running, in that cold weather. If you can move the ball running, and it's gonna make things a lot easier for your offense in that particular time of the year. So
yeah, I think another factor. All professional sports love a good feel good story. I think with the passing of Jim Brown, not too long ago, a few months ago, I mean, the script is set up for Nick Chubb to have like a record breaking season. I'm just saying, I'm not saying there is a script, but if I were writing a script, I would have Nick Chubb having a record breaking season in honor of Jim Brown. So just throwing that out there.
How much money are you putting on that, on the script?
I mean, at plus 450, I don't know, man. Maybe I should throw quite a bit of money at it.
Well,
you might have just
Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb. All right. Well, Nick Chubb was the easy pick. So if you had to pick somebody behind Nick Chubb, maybe like a sleeper pick, who would you go with here?
Sleeper pick for the AFC. Man, because like obviously you got Josh Jacobs back there,
who led the league last year. I believe
led the league last year. I feel like that Raiders offense is going to look a little different this year. So that's not
the offense might look better this year.
Well, but I mean, like more well-rounded. I feel like
sure.
You could. I feel like you could see Devontae getting more passing yards, and then you always have Derrick Henry, who's always a high candidate for that. That's not a sleeper pick either. If you're going sleeper pick, I don't know.
Before you give your pick, I mean, that offensive line in Tennessee is abysmal. I think even a monster like Derrick Henry is going to struggle to find space to run the ball. And I don't know if he's going to be able to run through people when, I mean, he's going to be getting met at the line of scrimmage a lot, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess like maybe this would be a sleeper only because of the way he plays, but maybe Austin Eckler, but he just catches too many balls. I just don't see, I don't know that I could pick a sleeper pick outside. It's like, you got Jonathan Taylor's there, but is he even got what's going on with his situation? There's just so much going on right now with the NFL that it's insane. So I don't know that I really have a sleeper pick, but who would you say?
So truthfully, I didn't think about this until we both agreed on Nick Chubb, and I was like, well, we gotta add a little extra to this conversation. But looking at the ratings here and looking at who has the best odds, and we're not just the best odds, but the odds throughout the whole conference, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna go with Najee Harris because I think Kenny Pickett's going to be much improved. George Pickens and Deontay Johnson are going to be able to put up much bigger numbers if Kenny Pickett has found his groove a little bit more. And from what I'm seeing is that they're building a lot of chemistry over there in Pittsburgh. That defense is strong, so with that with a good defense, and if they can put up some points early on through the passing game, I mean, I think they're going to run the ball to try to kill the clock. I'm not a Steelers fan. I don't like anything about the Steelers, but I like Najee Harris, and I do think that he could have a big year rushing the ball.
Yeah, what's their offensive lineman? He could not move last year. Like they had nowhere to go all the time.
They're middle, kind of middle of the road. Let me see here. I want to say they're ranked 17th, maybe. No, that's not it.
But either way, that was their issue last year. Like he had nowhere to go, and I don't know. I feel like they're going to be more of a, and they kind of showed it a little last year, but like with Jalen Warren, they're going to be somewhat of a running back by committee, a little bit. Warren's gonna give. He's for sure going to have some value.
I don't know, man. I think if Najee Harris comes in and just dominates, Warren may not have a ton of value. I know that they've always kind of had a running back by committee type setup, but I don't know. And again, that's just a sleeper pick. That was on the spot, just
Yeah,
processing it out loud.
yeah.
But their offensive line, again, preseason rankings has them ranked at 12th. So
Not as bad as I was thinking, because I thought they were like upwards towards 20th.
yeah.
So
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up with AFC champs. Who do you have taking home that title and representing the AFC in the Super Bowl?
this is tough. There's so many teams in the AFC. When you look at the AFC, there's probably 8 or 9 teams that I could look at and go, hey, they could make the playoffs and like possibly make like a crazy run. Obviously, you got the Chiefs up there, right? Like
Sure.
we both said that we don't. We both said that that's not our pick. So I'm not picking them this year. I think they're going to struggle a little bit more. Then when you go the rest of that division, I don't really think. I mean, the Chargers can definitely make the playoffs and make a sneaky run. I don't have them, you know. Then you go to that AFC East. There's a lot of teams in that AFC East, but the problem I see with those teams, they're going to beat each other up all year. They are going to just beat each other up. And, I was a couple years ago, again, we go back to some of these picks that we made. I was high on the Bills.
Same.
I had McDermott as the coach of the year. They were going to the Super Bowl. Nobody was touching them. And it just didn't happen. So I'm not going back to that. I got to leave the Bills out. I think the Dolphins are a playoff team, even if they're low in playoff, but I don't think they have what it takes to go to the Super Bowl. The Jets, they have a lot of new things going on there. I don't think they got it either. So then you look at, to me, it's the AFC North, because the AFC South is
abysmal.
It's the Jaguars and
the Jaguars,
and then everybody else. And again, I don't think the Jaguars are quite there yet either. I think they're going to be a good team. They're going to make the playoffs. They might even sneak another playoff win, but probably not, in my opinion. So then you go to the AFC North, and then when you look at the AFC North, you got Steelers and Browns, who I don't think are going to make the playoffs. I'd love to see the Browns make a push. I think they could potentially, but I don't see it. I don't see the Steelers making the playoffs again. So then you look at the Ravens. The Ravens have got a lot of hype, right? They had some signings, some rookies. I do think this is the year that maybe Lamar stays healthy. They can keep a good healthy backfield. They got a lot more passing options. I know J.K. Dobbins is already he's already there. I'm just so hopeful for them, but I think everybody's going to lose to the Bengals. I see the Bengals going back to the Super Bowl. And as I said, I almost doubled down and went with Burrow as the passing leader and Jamar Chase as the receiving leader. I think Burrow is going to do a good job of spreading that ball around. Yeah. So I don't see one of those receivers being top in the AFC, but the Bengals, I think you're gonna hear Joe Burrow's name for a while. I think that's just the nature of how things are. I think he is the real deal. I don't think there's anybody you laugh at the thought that he's not. He's just been so consistent and so good. They got so many weapons. It seems like they have guys like Joe Mixon. He's restructuring contract. Like they got guys that are in to win at teams. So I don't know that they're going to win the Super Bowl because at this point, I had the Eagles for the NFC and I have the Bengals for the AFC. So I don't know who wins that matchup. I haven't thought enough about that, but I see the Bengals as top dog. I can even see the Bengals going in as the 1 seed, getting home field all the way throughout, going to the Super Bowl. So I got the Bengals.
That was probably the most in-depth analysis that you've provided ever. I like it.
I'm trying to get better at this thing,
Yeah. Let's see here. Just want to take a look at something real quick.
What are you stalling out here?
I'm not stalling. Calm. Hey, hold on a second. You calm down there, buddy. I'm going to go with the Bengals too. I just wanted to shore up a few things here. I mean, I agree with you. If we look, so we talked about Kansas City, like we said. If you look at Buffalo, they've always kind of come up short because it seems like they lose a little bit of steam. Let's not talk about the overtime rules kind of screwing them out of a Super Bowl previously, but
a chance at
a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
fair.
You don't know what they're doing with the next drive anyway, regardless.
It's fair. But yeah, I mean, I think as you mentioned, that whole division is going to beat up on each other. Josh Allen continues to play pretty reckless with his body, which I always appreciated. I mean, I've always called him one of the grittiest players in football, and that's fine when you're a younger guy in the league and 23 years old, but he's getting up there and his body is not going to be able to recover the same way. And I feel like we kind of see that a little bit as each season progresses. So I think that could cause a problem for Buffalo. I do like Buffalo. I do think that they have a shot. As you mentioned earlier, I think their window is closing. I think I have to land on the Bengals as well. They just have the talent. Everyone seems to be buying in. I was pretty shocked to see that the Ravens were ranked with the 4th best odds. So they're right behind Cincinnati. Cincinnati's plus 550. And there's a big gap here. So you go Bengals plus 550 to the Ravens at plus 1,000. I was really shocked to see them up that high just because if we look over the past couple seasons, like injuries have been a problem for them. They just never seem to really put things together in the playoffs or anything like that. I think maybe the Ravens are a little bit overrated. And then if I take a step back or look a little at teams that are a little bit higher odds, New York and Miami, we talked about them. The Chiefs, or not the Chiefs, the Chargers. Is Brandon Staley going to make more boneheaded play calls and decisions at the end of the game and like punt the ball away when we shouldn't be punting the ball away? Like kick the field goal. Jacksonville, I'm with you. I'm not sure they're quite there yet. I do like what Doug Peterson's doing down there.
They're on the rise for sure,
especially with Calvin Ridley coming back this year. Like that's a strong offense.
Yeah, they're on the rise.
Yeah. Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence.
I'm looking for Etienne to have a huge year this year.
Yeah. Watch out for Evan Ingram, too. I think Evan Ingram's going to make a run for one of the probably top 3 tight ends in the NFL this year. But like I go down this list and I struggle and my eyes just keep coming back to the Bengals. I think that when we look at overall talent, I think they are the ones. They're the team to beat. So
yeah, they're the most complete team, I think. Right now, and you look at it and you go, oh, well, what about the Chiefs? What about the Chiefs? Again, they're gonna struggle eventually. And even if I'm wrong and it's not this year, it's coming. They're not gonna be, especially if you look at like Mahomes' contract, he has everything backloaded. So that money's gonna hit soon and it's gonna hurt unless he restructures, which he might, he might be a guy, but does a guy that's already won the championships restructure like that? And does he, is he going
Two-time
for,
MVP, two-time Super Bowl MVP. Like,
is he going for Brady numbers, or is he going to take that money and keep it? So the Bengals just look like the most complete team to me on that list. I think the Ravens. I'm not surprised by the Ravens, by their odds, and I think the reason for it is they did add some pieces, and to me, they're probably one of the better coached teams. Like take just pure talent out of it. John Harbaugh's a great coach. Like their coaching staff, they stay in games even when those guys are injured. Like they're never like getting blown out. Like they are a well coached team. So and they run that game plan so well. Like there's no other team in the league that has a game plan like set up like theirs. There's not. So like,
did they lose
I
their offensive coordinator?
I don't know the answer to that, but
Keep talking. I'm gonna look it up.
but when you just look at how well coached they've been, for Harbaugh's been there forever, for the number of years that he's been there, I can see why they're up there on that list. And I'm one of those ones that, I said it a long time ago, the NFL is going to figure Lamar Jackson out, right?
Yeah.
Like I said that, and we haven't really seen if that's been true because he's been injured. That's not really figuring a guy out. A guy getting injured isn't the NFL figuring him out. So I don't know. There's a lot of questions going into it, but I definitely think they have pieces to make a run. It's just, again, they're in another division where they're just going to get beat up too. They're gonna throw some hits. They're going to get hit. It's one of those things. The Bengals are seasoned. They're ready. They've been there. They've done it. They're battle tested. So that's where I land.
Okay, that's fair.
So you're looking up their coordinator?
Yeah. So they lost Greg Roman, who resigned after 6 seasons. So I think he was a big part of Lamar's success. And they hired Todd Monken.
I don't know who that is.
Monken served as the Georgia Bulldogs offensive play caller and quarterbacks coach since 2020. So, I mean, we've seen it. How many of those guys have a lot of success when they make that jump from college to the NFL?
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know. I think you see that more with head coaches.
Yeah.
I feel like it's easier to come in and be a coordinator, but I just think Harbaugh will have them ready. They're not going to be a pushover for sure.
Okay. I'm going to disagree, but we'll see how that plays out. I do think they're rated. I'm almost willing. I apologize if you can hear the loud car that just drove past my office. But I'm gonna make a crazy statement here, a little hot take. I think the Steelers finished better than the Ravens.
Ooh.
So mark it down. Steelers plus 3,000. Comparison to plus
the Super Bowl.
Not going to the Super Bowl.
No, I know. I'm just kidding.
Not throwing that out there, but maybe Mike Tomlin has
well coached as well. Yeah, exactly.
He's a good coach. But all right, man. Well, that wraps up all the rankings I had questions about. Anything you want to add before we wrap things up?
I mean, there's no rankings, nothing ranking wise that I have to talk about, but can we just appreciate the fact that Hard Knocks is on tonight? And this is like, we have preseason football on Thursday. This is the start of football season. Like, I know the Hall of Fame game was on, and I know you said it's probably the worst football we were going to see. At the time, it was the greatest football we were going to watch because it was football.
Yeah.
But this is like Hard Knocks for me is always football season's here. I'm getting to see something. There's something tangible. It's right there. I can see it. I can feel it. It's and then you got preseason football coming on Thursday. So it's just the time of the year is upon us. It feels so good. Love it.
When I walked outside this morning, there was like a crispness in the air. And that's how I know. I was like, football's on its way. Yeah. The weather's going to start changing. I mean, it's still hot. Like, still got like 86, 87 degrees today. But these cooler mornings are just letting me know that in about a month, we got football on the horizon. So super excited for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to Hard Knocks. We can definitely do a little recap on our next episode. But yeah, man. Once again, I appreciate the fact that you joined to talk through the AFC with me today. Always appreciate the conversation. For the listeners out there, please do us a favor. If you're watching us on YouTube, like the video, leave a comment, share it with your friends. All of that goes a very long way. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Turn on notifications so you know when the next video drops. We've been doing pretty well with getting a video out each week, so getting a little bit of consistency, which is going to help us with building some momentum. So that's good. But if you're listening to us on a podcast platform, we appreciate that as well. Whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever platform, iHeartRadio, whatever it may be, we appreciate that as well. Go ahead and subscribe and follow us on those platforms as well. And then we're most active on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, go ahead and like us at Bourbon and Bets. Haven't really posted a ton of pics. We've been doing a little bit of gambling with baseball, but by no means do I recommend anyone follow my baseball picks. But as football kicks off, we're gonna start posting some more picks on there. You'll get to probably hear from myself, hear from Avery, hear from anyone else that we have on the show, and we'll be keeping track of who has the best records, by week, by season total, and kind of go from there. But for all the listeners out there, we do greatly appreciate you. Tim, once again, man, thank you for coming on the show. Definitely appreciate it.
Hey, I'm just glad you still bring me on even after some of the crazy stuff I say. So
We appreciate it, man. It's what keeps the show interesting. But
right.
all right, man. Well, until next time, for the listeners out there, hopefully if you are participating in any like baseball wagers or tennis or I don't know, Korean baseball, I hope you're profitable. So everyone out there, be safe, and until next time, we'll talk to you soon.